Hello, and welcome to the Casual Lounge. I'm your host Alex, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Sam. Hello, hello.
Hello.
This is the pilot episode of hopefully a nice new podcast series we're going to start here, where we just sit down and talk about games. You know, we are both gamers, as much as I really despise that word, and you know, games are a big part of our lives, so I feel like we're fairly qualified to talk about them. This is the first episode, so I feel like we gotta go in strong. We'll go in with a game we're both very fond of, a game we both hold quite dear, and that is the classic Valve first-person shooter, Team Fortress 2. There's Team Fortress 2 content on the channel. It's my most played game on Steam, probably one of my most played games of all time, and honestly, I just love it to bits.
It's great. It's also my most played, though I have about 1,000 hours less. No, that's more a you problem than a me problem, but we'll move on.
So, obviously, anyone familiar with Team Fortress 2 knows it's going through a rough patch. It's been in a rough patch for, like, ages at this point. Good few years, which sucks, but, you know, it wasn't always like this, and, you know, we're gonna hopefully touch upon what's happening with TF2 at the moment, our thoughts on it, our thoughts on the future of the game, and, you know, just reminisce about good memories we've had with the game, you know, how it used to be, when we used to enjoy it. First off, I know, obviously, we both played a good amount of time, you know, it's impacted us quite a bit. If I say TF2, what's the kind of the first bits of experience that comes to mind?
Ooh, it's gotta be when you were like teaching me how to play the game, and I'm going through, and you were like, just when you get shot at, just like duck and weave and like crouch, and I was on the battlements as a sniper, and I just stood there, and so I saw some guy, and I just crouched, and then stood right back up, and he shot my head straight off. I was like, I've nailed that.
I remember that. Oh my god.
I thought it was a toggle, so I just tapped it, and it wasn't even a full crouch. It was like a slight knee bend.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then
the classic free-to-play, just single button tap, not even like half crouch at most.
Like at that point, it was the first game. Pretty much the first. I think it was the first FPS game I'd played, and it was like the first time I'd played it. So I had only played controller up until that point. So my muscle memory wasn't there at all. So I had no idea where the was. I was like, yeah. So control. Have I done it? Have the dodge. That's one of my earliest memories of it, and it's still one of my most fond.
I still remember it so fucking vividly as well. You know what? I remember it even worse because you came in, and for some godforsaken reason, we thought, new player to the game, he's playing sniper. Let's pocket him as a Crits Krieg medic. Oh god. Good times.
Name a more iconic duo. Oh,
exactly, wait. Yeah. Everyone's gangster till the free-to-play gets perma crits.
Yeah, it would have been good if I could actually hit anything, but I still can't hit anything with sniper. You spent like an hour one evening on an empty server teaching me how to headshot, and it's still like one of my most points I've got in the game, because you just stood there and let me shoot you in the face for like however long it was.
I feel like you did learn something by the end, though. I feel like your aim did improve significantly.
Yeah, coming from Call of Duty sniper aiming to TF2 sniper aiming is very weird and very different, and it took me a very long time to even get used to it.
Yeah.
It still takes me a good like half an hour of playing sniper to actually be able to get anything.
You do need to warm up, yeah. Because a lot of TF2's thing is it's hit scan, so wherever you're pointing when you click, there's no travel time with the bullet. It's just instant, and it's always something that throws people off. Like always, 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 I see new players get thrown off by that.
Especially when you kept giving me the huntsman. You just kept being sniper with me, just dying so I could pick up your huntsman. I think I like this. He traded me one like the first day we played it, and then from that point on, I played that like exclusively for like the next couple of weeks.
I do remember you went through quite a long huntsman phase.
Getting like a killer knight at best, and just being like, "Oh, I'm so good at the game." Huntsman is just one of those weapons where it's like, I'm terrible, I'm terrible, I'm terrible. I am a god amongst men. Fear me. So there's little moments of just dopamine. It's like, oh, perfect.
I feel like that's a pretty good summary of TF2 as a whole, though, because all the weapons just have that feel to them, where you just think, when you're just kind of, you can tell, and you get, like, visible feedback when you're not hitting what you should be, and you're not doing as well as you can be, but when you get it, and when those shots connect, there is just, something beautiful.
It's like, all the graphic, like, how it looks when you shoot someone, you know, that you see their corpse flying out, the noise your gun makes, you see them ragdoll halfway across.
The ragdolls. Dear God, the ragdolls.
Pure bliss.
Indeed.
Because even when I started playing, there was a bit of a bot problem, but like there was like one in a lobby every now and then.
Yeah, it was nowhere near as prolific as it is at the moment.
They'd just be kicked immediately, and it was like, oh, okay, I died once to a bot. That's fine, don't care.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, oh, I've joined a server full of just bots playing against each other. This is great.
Yeah, and God, that really brings us on to the unfortunate truth of where TF2 is at the moment, which is I can't sugarcoat it. It's rough, you know. As someone who cares about this game deeply and just enjoys it and spent so much time with it, you just it saddens me to see the state TF2 is in at the moment.
Especially when you see Valve doing all these other things, like, you know, doing the Steam Deck. It's like you've literally developed a whole new system, but you can't like put up slightly better, slightly better thing to stop bots coming in. Like, come on, game. We know you've got money. We know you have it. Come on, just pay
give
more
us
than
a little bit of it.
Pay more than one poor sap to run the TF2 servers, please. It's still like the 5th most played game on Steam. I beg you.
It's true, which is remarkable, really. Just how fucking resilient this game is.
It's like, it's not even dead, but Valve were just like, yeah, it's old. Who cares?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like half of Steam, like, we care.
Which is why I find it so hard to understand why Valve have just jumped ship when it comes to Team Fortress 2. The most we get are a few cosmetic updates, and, you know, even then, it's all community content, right? And most of it we've seen. For any of you who've seen some of the new cosmetics out, especially that god-awful new scout cosmetic, yeah, you know the one.
Dear God.
I'm beginning to. They don't even moderate the kind of stuff they're putting in their chests anymore.
The fact that when they introduced them weight classes, I forget what they were called. They're like the most fringe thing we've ever put on. That's like the extreme will go.
Yeah.
Away from the aesthetic. Meanwhile, Scout holding literally half another Scout. Yep, that's fine. It's like they're not making things themselves, but they're not even picking good community ones in the first place.
It's like, I don't even understand what the point of that cosmetic is. It doesn't do anything. It's just there. It's just they've cut the Scout model in half and they've just put it in a dodgy angle, right? It doesn't look good at all.
No.
It's not like the Binoculus from last year, which looked atrocious, but was such a fucking meme and worked with so much stuff. It was amazing, right? This is just, it doesn't work with anything. It's just fucking weird.
People have already started to mod it where they've put long hair on the first Scout, like the front one, and has it like wearing a skirt,
Oh god.
and it's an abomination. I had to gouge my eyes out with a melon baller as soon as I saw it because it made me physically ill.
Yeah. And the worst part is, we've both been on the workshop. There is some amazing content on there, especially Halloween restricted stuff, because it's like Scream Fortress is one of the 2 big holidays for TF2. Arguably, it's bigger than Christmas.
For TF2, definitely.
Yeah, and it's just like so many people you could tell it's a dedicated fan base, because even all this time later, with all the abandonment Valve has put Team Fortress 2 through, the community still makes amazing content for it. And it sucks that Valve just is choosing to ignore all the more amazing stuff in favor of wasting a chest slot with something like, that.
It's just such a shame. I'm not even mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, it's just kind of, you can't really, there's nothing to get mad about, it's just kind of, it's just become kind of a fact of life that everyone's just accepted. The fact that there are, like, timers that show days since last update, and people celebrated when we hit 1,000 a while ago, just goes to show you, just, like, the community just accepted it at this point. They know, and, Parade isn't going to change anytime soon. I hope it does. I hope we make this and we're proven wrong immediately, and tomorrow or the day after there's a new update and everything's fixed and the bots are gone. But you hold your breath for so long, you're gonna start suffocating, and I can't do that anymore.
At the minute there are 86,000 people playing it.
Yeah,
86,000. The peak today was 100,000.
Now, we do have to bear in mind the percentage of bots in that total player number, but we could be generous and say, like, what, 30-40%? That's still a huge player base of just real people on this game, right? It's not like other games where just the player base have just fallen off a cliff and just they're gone. They're still there.
It's almost double Rainbow Six Siege. But yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
At the minute. And I'm sure it's Ubisoft who owns Rainbow Six Siege, isn't it? I'm sure they...
It is, yeah, I believe.
Ubisoft. I will say it again. Ubisoft can do this.
You're in rough waters when companies like Ubisoft and Activision,
Ubisoft, Activision, and EA are the bottom bar of what you should be doing. You should never be doing less than them.
You should never really look at yourself and say, "I'm doing as well as Ubisoft today," and think that's a good thing to be.
It's terrifying that a Ubisoft game is more looked after. An EA game is more looked after. Like, EA put more effort into FIFA 22 than Valve have put into TF2 for the past 10 years. And the FIFA game's basically the exact same game. Such a shame.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll come back to mope and complain about this, but we could try... Let's try to stay a bit positive, because as I've said before, we both have spent a large amount of time on this game, and it's I'd say it's had, I don't think I'd be where I am without Team Fortress 2. I think it's just been such an amazing game. I started playing this game in 2016, and on and off I've been playing pretty much ever since. So I've been part of the community for a decent amount of time now. I know I've missed out a lot of the OG kind of content creators back in the day, and I wasn't around when TF2 was truly in its peak. But in just the going on 5 years I'm part of this community now, it's just been excellent. This game, it never fails to surprise you, whether intentionally or not. There's always something about it. Just it's a game you always come back to, and you know we see other games, and we talked about this before. We see other games with short shelf lives and stuff, and then you look at something like TF2, which on paper shouldn't be here today. You know, the complete abandonment from the studio, the bot crisis, but here it stands. It is nothing if not stubborn, I think, and you know, it's just a testament to how much the community cares, you know, and how amazing TF2's community is, you know.
It had its 14th birthday not that long ago. 14 years is a long time.
It is, yeah. I really struggle to think of any games that, especially multiplayer games, that have lasted this long, right? It's really, TF2 is pretty much on its own league.
You can count the amount with two hands, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have accredited, and I think rightly so, TF2 in many ways just completely changed the way people look at like multiplayer games and the life of a game. Because way back when it was released, you had the game would come out. It would be like old Call of Duties, right? So the game would come out, you play it, wait for the new one, and then move on, right? And you just buy the next one, and you just get sequels. TF2 was one of the first games, especially the first multiplayer games, that just here's the base game, and then here's downloadable content in form of updates like 3-4 times a year with all these new stuff. And here's a bunch of new weapons, here's a new map. You know?
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of it's an industry standard, I want to say, in a lot of ways. Just, you know, you have FPSs that go through, you got seasons now, like we got Fortnite and the new CODs, and they add stuff, and it's all updates, and I feel like TF2 drove a lot of that, you know? I think it deserves more credit.
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of pioneered the model of, okay, well, here's a game, right? You can just keep playing it, and you can just add as much to the game as you want. You can keep it the same if you want to keep it the same. You can change pretty much everything, and like with the modding community that's been developed over the years, you can make it into completely different games if you want, but you still have all that stuff that you've got. So like with the new Call of Duties, you pay like people pay hundreds and hundreds of pounds for cosmetics that they will use for 6 months and then will never touch again.
Yeah.
Whereas you could have bought a hat 14 years ago in TF2 and still wear that hat.
It's true, yeah. It's one of the few games, is TF2, where I don't suffer from horrendous buyer's remorse, because I know if I buy a cosmetic or something in the game, I'm gonna keep using that for, you know, a good few years. Like, I'm probably gonna get as much, like, wear out of it as I would any real life article of clothing. It's just, you know, that the game is just such a staple, you know, it's not gonna go anywhere. It's just gonna keep going. Whether it receives updates or not, it's still just gonna keep going.
I know people who have more TF2 cosmetics than they have clothes. That's
I'm not even surprised, yeah.
Because why would you not?
Exactly, yeah.
Why would you not? You have the ability to, and they never go away.
Because you really don't have to worry about... I don't think there will ever be a Team Fortress 3, right? And jokes aside about Valve not being able to count, I think even if they were still in like proper games development, and they did make sequels, and we had like Half-Life 3 and all these other things, I feel like TF2 just... people would just stick with it, you know? It's not like... I don't think it'd be financially profitable at all to make a sequel, you know?
The only thing I could see them doing, not that they even necessarily would, but like the only thing they probably could do is just transfer it to the new source. And That's it. Like, not touch the game as a whole, just update it a bit, which might enable them to prevent what's a little more, just because of how old that engine is now. It's just so easily exploitable.
Yeah.
Stuff like that wasn't around then. They didn't know they had to protect it in that way, which I think is part of the reason why they haven't. It's probably because they can't. With how the game's built, if they close one door, it opens another, and the cycle probably repeats. I mean, as you know, I'm no game dev, but it surprises me that not much has been done. Like, I know there's jokes about them just not caring
Yeah.
or just giving up, but for how big it is and for how long it's been big, it just doesn't add up that it's been that long and nothing's happened. There's got to be some other reason, and I think updating it to a new source engine, or even making another source engine to then transfer it over, where they've made sure that they can implement all these systems, and then they could just leave it. They wouldn't have to worry about looking after it then. Probably save them work in the long run, ironically, but should probably tell them that. Might get them to do something once, but we can dream.
I think a big issue, and people talk about this, is there is a team for Team Fortress 2. There is like a proper dev team for them, but unfortunately, Valve's model of working for their company, and I'll link a video if I remember to, just in the top right, just explaining a bit more about how it is. But basically, it's very much you go in and you pick whatever project you want to do, and that's how they run their company, and that's how they run all their development. So you work on really just whatever you want to do, not necessarily whatever needs to be done.
Right.
And so, especially with all the new Steam Deck stuff and Half-Life Alyx, we know took up a lot of TF2 staff members. So all this new stuff comes in, and everyone wants to work on that. And so, poor old TF2 is just left to kind of sit in the corner, because as much as people enjoy TF2, if you have the option between like a decade-old shooter, or this latest and greatest tech from Valve, or this brand new VR game, which is like basically a follow-up to one of their biggest series, right? It's kind of, you can't blame them for wanting to work on the other stuff, can you?
No, you can't. I feel like what Valve needs is just a group of people, probably run a modern community, go, we will work for you and we will do it. We will work on it. Because I know for a fact there are people who would, because people have said it before. Like, there are people who have the ability, who also have the will to do it.
It's
and I
true.
think Valve need to sort of open it up a bit more, I think, or at least give people the opportunity to try. They don't have to necessarily implement what they do, just give people an opportunity to try and fix the game that they love, that they want to play, that they can't at the minute because it's broken. But, like, there are so many people who would put time and money and effort in just to make it so when they played it, it was enjoyable. Because at the moment, it's very hard. It's very hard to find enjoyment in it. Once you get into a lobby, it tends to be all right. Like, with enough people, and if some join, they're kicked relatively quickly. But it's constant, and if once like 2 or 3 get in, it's basically gone. Because then people start leaving, then more bots come, and then as soon as you're outnumbered, everyone just leaves.
Yeah.
And then you have to just rejoin again. Like, the amount of time wasted, people could probably have fixed it. Just in the loading time, just...
Oh dear.
I feel like they need some help, and I feel like the community is more than willing to
Yeah,
help them.
because it would as well. It solves a problem of a lot of people have said, well, if Valve and their teams don't want to work on it, why don't they hand over to the community for development full time? And people think on surface that's a good idea. I think if you probably break that down, you're left with a community who they may want to do the right thing, they just want to help the game, but they're being left completely unmoderated by that point, right?
Yeah, that would.
And you just
Never
open the
end well.
floodgates at that point, and as much as the development might come along, it's not gonna be what Gaben wanted, right? It's gonna be content, but it's not gonna be just right, I can't really explain it, but it's not gonna be Valve.
No, it needs. It's a joint effort. It needs to be joint. They're trying to do it by themselves, but just a nice, good handhold is all that's needed.
Yeah, and it's not like they're afraid that they'll do all this work and then it goes underappreciated because no one cares about TF2 anymore. There is still huge interest in Team Fortress 2. I don't know if you saw a while ago now, Funk, who used to be like a fairly decent time ago. He was a pretty big TF2 YouTuber.
Yeah,
and then he moved away.
I have seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he made a video just about how he missed TF2 and just talking about what happens at the moment, and just the views that vid got just by itself were just astonishing. There were so many people, and throughout all the comments, it was just content creators, new and old, and just every member, just every aspect of the community, just came together and was just like, yeah, we miss Team Fortress 2. We want this game to come back. So,
well, it's still the same game. It's not what it was.
No,
it's so annoyingly close, which I think is the most frustrating thing. Like it's almost there. It
is on the verge of being great again.
It's a handful of aspects, but those few things just drag it down so much. It's like because you get the moments of the old TF2 in there when you're playing, but it's only moments now. It's not just the entire time you're playing. You have to get through so much other stuff just to have those genuine TF2 moments.
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic that they will try and improve it, at least, because they did a relative update for Screen Fortress this year.
Yeah.
There's been so much just straight up feedback from the community, good and bad, about a lot of things. Just sort of showed them, yeah, we saw what you did, and here's what I think about it. Here's what I liked, here's what I didn't. And just giving them something to work off, because at least they know. Like, people are still like, yeah, we know you updated it, it's really good, but you could have done this a little bit better, but I like this, and they just need to listen and just do it again.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be every week, just update. Just like, even like once every couple of months, just do like a poll or something to the community. Be like, give them options of what you want them to fix.
Yeah, that's always been the main. It's even way back in like 2016 when we had like the first signs that development was getting a bit rough. It was just like, TF team, it's fine. Just talk to us. It's what we're here for. But it was the weirdest thing, because as much as we've ragged on about the Halloween, especially with the new cosmetics and stuff, the weirdest thing that's given me hope for this game and for Valve still caring about it is there was a war paint that came out with the new chests, and it was nothing special. It's just a nice looking paint, but it was broken. right? The wall paint was broken. It was just, and it had missing textures, and it was just the black and purple squares.
Okay.
And as soon as it came to light that it was broken, I want to say within like a day, 2 days, it was fixed, right? Valve released an update, they patched it all, and so I think for small things, like they're still on it, they're on the ball, they're seeing that people are mentioning this, and they're fixing it. So I think there is hope that there is something coming. I don't want to sound too optimistic, but I really do hold out hope that I think they're doing the best they can with the small team they've got, and hopefully soon we'll actually get a big bit of content, or at least fixes for the bots, or just some extra content just to keep us going until perhaps one of the bigger updates drops.
I'll tell you what, I've got a hot take for you.
Oh yeah.
People might not like it. In fact, they probably won't like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think they should give people the option to pay for the game. Because
right.
Because like with the paints and stuff, they know people have either paid for it outright in trades, or they've just bought cases or bought keys, and they fixed it because they know, okay, people have spent like actual money on this. This isn't just the free game that some kids downloaded on his mum's laptop that he's annoyed about. It's some people who are actually spending real money, and even if they gave people the option to pay like £5, like £5 to play it. How many people would do that? Considering I've spent more than that on one cosmetic.
Yeah, unfortunately, same.
That would just show them like we're not just like, oh come on, do it. We're like, we are serious and we will help you do it.
Well, there is that. It does exist to an extent because there's premium, and that's like, I think it's not that expensive. I think it is only like a £5, and so that's obviously you go from the free-to-play account to you get the backpack slots and you get like a bit of this and a bit of that. But yeah, so it does exist. It's just, I don't know.
I feel like at this point it wouldn't do more harm. It really wouldn't, because it's even though it would be paid instead of free to play, it's like it doesn't really stop people these days. People aren't really that bothered. They're not going to be like, oh, £5 to play a game. No, why would I do that? That's disgusting. People are like more open to like doing that now.
Yeah, I feel like while it would deter, like especially bot makers, I think it would definitely deter them if the game became pay to play again. I feel like in the long term it would just do more harm than good. I think TF2 has lived so long because it is so readily accessible. It's the top. If you're looking for free to play games, it's always in that list. I feel like if you and without free to play players and new players coming in just by making the free accounts, the game and the community just, it can't live without them, I think. So it's a dangerous balancing act, and I think that's why Valve haven't touched it, because if they get it wrong, it goes really wrong.
One thing they could do is make like make TF2 great again, like cosmetic or something. And like that you can just buy it. Like you don't have to go through the crates or anything. It's just like in the sort of shop when you open, like just in the game. It's like, you can buy this to like show that you're like, you want the support. That would be outrageously popular.
I reckon, yeah, something like that could, because they used to give away way before my time. Back in the day, they gave out a hat called the Cheater's Lament, which was basically, so early on, like there were a bunch of cheats available for Team Fortress 2, and there were some really big obvious ones, and a decent amount of people were getting them. And Valve saw this, and they patched it out, and they fixed it so you couldn't use all the cheats anymore. But because the cheats, unlike nowadays, where it's all just like, where it is tied to your account to an extent, for the most part, you just make a new account and you go. These cheats were very much just kind of big. So if Valve looked over your account and you were clean, you got an item called the Cheater's Lament, which is basically just like a halo. It's just a nice hat. And just cheaters, they lost their minds over it. There were dozens of mods out that just basically allowed them to change what the Cheater's Lament looked like for them to like cock and balls or like a middle finger, because they just couldn't stand it. They couldn't stand that like these new players or the free-to-players or whatever were getting something nice
that
they weren't. Yeah. So I think another round of something like that, or maybe just maybe even like a pin or a badge or something you can equip on your character, or like a nice hat. Because if you think, one of the best things I've seen in the store, like what you're mentioning, is there's a hat you can get. It's one of the only readily available unusuals in the game that's dirt cheap. It's called I can't remember what it's called, but it's a pirate hat, right? And it's linked to map stamps, and so you can buy stamps which go towards supporting map makers. So if you like a map that's been bought in by the community, you can buy a stamp, and it gives money to the guy or gal or team or whatever who made the map.
Yeah.
So, and when you first buy a stamp, or every time you buy a stamp, you get, first time around you get given the hat, and so you get a unique, unusual effect where you're wearing that hat on whatever map you've supported. And so if you have map stamps for like a bunch of different maps, every time you're on that map that you've supported, you get the unusual effect. And that's a great idea, because it encourages people. I did it. I've got it. And you get the hat, and if you're on one map a lot, so back in my really early days, I played a ton of Turbine. Not afraid to admit. Looking back, arguably it's one of the worst maps in the game. But, back then, I didn't care. And I enjoyed playing on it. And I got a stamp, and I got a bunch of stamps, and I supported the map maker. And you got this cool, like, unusual effect, right? And just stuff like that. Just try stuff like that just for supporting Valve and supporting the game, Maybe give out a nice unusual effect or cosmetics that you can just buy right out the gate that makes a direct donation to the TF team. And that goes back to help the game, and then, you've got like a pretty decent positive loop there.
Because like Gabe can ignore, he can ignore the numbers on Steam, but he won't ignore money.
Exactly.
People can't ignore money. It's there. It's physical. It's an actual thing. It's not just numbers on a screen. Like, we're playing. It's like, we're playing, and we give you this physical thing just for you because we like you, and we want this to continue to do well. Yeah,
money is just, you want to make someone listen. Money is always unfortunately, it's the go-to thing. It's more often than not the only thing that gets through to people.
Money talks. Ask EA.
It does. Yeah, God. Best example, EA.
Hopefully the EA don't hear this. They'll be like, "Oh, we just make loads of cosmetics," saying like, "Oh, you're just supporting FIFA." Oh, they got special balls, special shirts. Oh God.
They'd never go for it. They'd have to put it in at least one loot box, maybe two.
Oh, absolutely.
That sounds almost too generous for EA.
They would never dream of doing something so nice. We just need something different is what we need, because clearly what people have been doing, it's not what's happening, it's not working. The state of the game hasn't changed in probably a good couple of years now. It's like people are playing it, we need something. Like, it could be something completely different, we don't know, just spitballing, but
yeah.
something.
Just
Something.
anything.
Just try something. It could be a failure, but it doesn't matter. At least you tried. Because at the minute it's like, oh, please, stop. Which clearly hasn't worked. We need something.
Yeah.
Need people a lot smarter than me to figure out what that is. But I'm sure if enough people bash their heads together for long enough,
Well, eventually someone's gonna figure something out, aren't they?
I really hope so. I really do.
So we were talking earlier, just while we're on the subject of reminiscing a little bit, we were talking about just some memories that stood out to us, you know, and I just think that, because there have been a few, just 'cause even with the smallest things, you know, it always feels like when you first start landing headshots on Sniper, or you very first get the gibbous and the pyrovision, you know, I still remember to this day vividly when I first unlocked the gibbous and I equipped it as the very first cosmetic, pretty much the very first cosmetic I ever owned, and I equipped it on all my guys, and I was just chuffed. I didn't have any paint for it, it was just completely default. I've still got it, it's in my inventory to this day. I never got rid of it.
Yeah,
And-
I've still got mine.
Yeah,
Still there.
I just remember thinking, yeah, this is awesome. I've got a hat, you know. I've done something. I've got this achievement. I've proven I've bested someone, and I've been rewarded for that. And here's this cool hat, you know. Was it the best hat? God no. You know, beggars can't be choosers at the time. It was just, you know, it was amazing. I also remember, I used to think that, especially with the Meet the Team trailers and just from old videos I used to watch, Sniper's secondary was the Jurati. I always thought his default weapon in secondary slot was Jurati. And it's just my disappointment when I loaded up the game for the first time and I saw he had an SMG instead. I was just like, what? This isn't right.
Where it could have been worse. It was Scout's primary weapon for a while. It could have been worse.
Yeah.
Imagine all the skunts running around with SMGs.
Oh my god, don't even.
Call of Duty TF2 edition.
But yeah, I then made it just like this mini quest to just get hold of some Jurati, and just because I saw that there was random weapon drops, so you just had to play the game. So I thought, if I just play enough of this game, I'll get it in a random drop. And then I did. I was like, I am a god now. And I missed 90% of the Juratis I threw, but it was fun, you know, and I had it. And I feel like I'd worked for something and I'd earned it. And it's just like, that's what TF2 is just so good at. I think it's why, because I feel like we as more experienced players just kind of forget what it's like to be a free to play. I mean, I know I have in a lot of ways.
I still remember the first time I played Demo Man, and you'll know where I'm going with this. I haven't played I pretty much only played like I let it go with all the other characters, mainly like Sniper and Heavy. And I was like, okay, I'll try Demo. And I was like, wait a minute, he's just got 2 projectiles. What is this? I spawned, walked outside, lobbed a couple of pills over someone's head, got shot. I was like, no. And if I had 12 seconds of playtime, and for about 100 hours of playtime on the game, probably more, I had 12 seconds as Demo Man. I refused to play anymore. I think the next time I played Demo Man was when I got the Islander and I wanted to play Demo Knight.
Yeah.
I think the first time I like properly played stock Demo was like 200 hours into the game. Something like that. Maybe 150.
I remember you getting the Islander as well, because you didn't have a shield for the longest time. You had the booties and you had the sword, but you didn't have a shield, and so you just ran around with the sword and the stickies, and that was. I know it used to be a thing. It used to be a big taboo being free to play in the game, and I think there are still people who bully free to plays. But every time you look at you find a free to play or you see that wild gibbous, I can't help but smile, because it means just a new person has picked up this game and is enjoying themselves, and I just think I remember when that was me,
Oh, do you remember the one of the last times we played? We found that guy who was asking how to get the gold weapons.
Oh yeah, I do.
Chat, and he was putting in chat. How do you guys get the gold weapons? And like people are like being like, it's not gold, it's Australian, and like you need to do all these other things. And he's like, but how do I get it? And there was a bit of like, he doesn't know, but like most people are like literally just trying to explain to him.
Yeah,
that's not how it works. You have to do certain things to get it. Like you can't just.
And bear in mind, this involved trying to explain TF2 trading, right, to a brand new player. You try explaining trading in this game to like most new players, they're not gonna have any idea what you're talking about. It took me like 500 hours before I learned how fucking trading works in this game.
I still barely know how it works. I know enough to get by, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's just such a moment, because they probably come from Call of Duty, because it's like, oh, gold weapon. It's like, top skin. They probably got it from doing something. So like, how do I do it?
Yeah.
And I want it.
It's just still to this day one of the funniest things we ever encounter, and it's pretty much become a turn of phrase. Is if you ever find your way onto a CTF server, you'll find the free-to-play engineer, and my god, few things in this world terrify me like that, because they have no fear. Without fail, every single free-to-play engineer I've ever met playing this game is just, they're made different. They're like the Doomslayer, right? They have no fear. They will run right at your face with nothing but a wrench equipped, and just, it is terrifying.
Free-to-play engies, probably the only second in fearlessness to the honey badger.
It's true.
Everything else just pales in comparison. There is nothing. It doesn't matter what cosmetics you have. It doesn't matter how many people there are. It doesn't matter if you're a pocket medic. It doesn't matter if you're Ubered. The free-to-play engineer will always equip his wrench and run at you with maximum force and swing with all his might, because he doesn't know any better, but he's gonna get you, because he got someone once with a random crit, and it worked. So he's gonna, god damn it, he's gonna do it again.
Oh.
I feel like that period of time is one of the nicest, because you think that's just how you play the game. So when you get a kill, because you get them very often, and you get one like that, then you go, yes, nice. And then you learn actually how to play the game, and you go, why did I do that for like 20 hours? Just wasting my time.
I feel like you go through a similar phase. I know I did, and I know a lot of people have, where, especially when you're first forming, opinions on the game, or you first start to think you're beginning to understand how it works, which obviously, if you've only got less than 100 hours, you can get a grip with the base fundamentals, but this game's skill ceiling is fucking ridiculous, right? There is no way in hell, even if you have thousands of hours, you're going to be able to hit like the top tier of gameplay. And you find something that just that has no reason to work, right? And it's not even like it's good, it's just annoying, and it takes too much effort for people to work around. They don't. So a thing would be, the thing I remember vividly was the Machina crouching in a corner with the old Darwin's Danger Shield, which basically made you immune to a headshot. Right? So you could just fucking stand there, immobile. Someone takes a shot at you, you don't die, you just point your gun at them, fire anywhere in their vague direction if it's full charge, and and you just win sniper fights, right?
Oh,
And it's like this isn't how it's supposed to work. And up against half decent people, it won't work. But when you're brand new to the game, you just think, I've just discovered the best strategy on Earth, right? You just can't win against this.
meanwhile the devs are like, no, this isn't how you're supposed to play the game.
It's like you always have. I think you always know what you're doing in a game until you meet someone who's better than you. It's kind of like you always have a plan until you get punched in the face, right? It's like you have no idea what's good or not, or how good you are until you go up against someone who's actually testing you, and it's got like thousands of hours more than you on this game, and just knows it like the back of their hand. That's when you really find out what strategies are just gimmicks and what are actually just good core mechanics and what's going to actually get you winning.
Had that so many times as a sniper. Like, we've been in one lobby and I've been like dominating the other snipers. I'm like, oh yes, I'm so good. And then we join another one, and every single time around the corner, my head has been removed from my shoulders, and I've lost the engagement to the other sniper like 20-1, and I'm just like, how do you do that? So there's always a bigger fish in this game.
It is true.
There is always a bigger fish.
You never know what, and this applies not just with Sniper. The amazing thing about TF2 is it's with every class, right? You never know what a class is truly capable of until you see someone who properly knows what they're doing with them, right? So if you could see like medics, or you see heavies, and they're on a completely another level, and they're doing things just you wouldn't even think of doing, and they're dominating. You've got heavies that dominate servers without any pockets at all, without any healing, without any backup. They've got like tracking, they've got the knowledge, and they just make it look easy. Well, they just gun down everyone. They're immortal.
You can like tell the difference in like the way people play the game when you like see people playing, and then you see like actual like content creators play. Like most scouts will see like an NG out in the open and be like, oh, free kill.
Yeah.
And then you get someone like Uncle Dave just be like, oh, it's a scout, that's an easy kill, and they'll just 1-2 him. And it's like,
yeah,
because skill is always more important than what class you're playing.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll always trump random crits or whatever bullshit weapon you've got, or whatever class you're playing. Skill will always be the deciding factor.
I one thing I really would love to see is like one of the best people play medic, just like one man army, an entire server, because they probably could.
I think it would be a lot harder, but there are definitely I've seen medics who are basically just immortal because they always know when to conserve Uber, when to pop, when to push, who to be healing, how to get away, And this is, bear in mind, this is without things like the Uber sword to help them, or a crits or whatever,
Yeah, they use the best melee weapon that the medic has, the Solemn Vow.
Oh yeah.
I used the Solemn Vow for so long and didn't realise what it did. It just looked cool. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna use it.
Yeah. Little
did I know. It was funny killing people with it because they were always very angry with you.
That's another great thing, is it's a meta. TF2's a game, it's a multiplayer game that doesn't really have any concrete meta, right? There's always going to be good combinations of items, and I know the competitive scene, as far as like, for the most part, loadouts and stuff is all going to stay the same, and just the team comp, because it's generally like 2 scouts, a soldier, a demo, and a medic, right? And that's how Sixes has been since the beginning of time. But as far as just casual play goes, you really aren't punished for what items you run, generally. It's always down to what you do as opposed to what weapons you have. It's why I've protested long and hard, and I will hopefully get around to making something on the channel one day. The fire axe, it will be meta, Anything, the great thing about this game is anything can be meta if you're good enough with it, right? Doesn't matter what it is or what it does. I've seen people take the worst weapons in the game and just dominate with them. and it says a lot about the game.
It owes a lot of its success to the fact that it's so balanced. You look at any other game, like it's not perfectly balanced. You're never going to be, but compared to pretty much every other shooter that there is, there's always one or a selection of like 5 weapons that are just so much better than all the others that you will just be outclassed if you try and use. Like for someone who played Call of Duty a lot last year, like past few years, if you did not have the right weapon, you lost.
Yeah,
like, that was just it. You could be better. You could be significantly better. You could have so much more knowledge of the game, but if you didn't have the right gun, you would just be mowed down because someone can kill you in half the time, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whereas at least with TF2, if someone does that, there's a reason for it. It's because they've set themselves up in such a way that they can do that. If they've not just gone, this gun's better, I will use this. Everyone has a chance against everyone in most situations. If you have some semblance of game sense. It's whether or not you choose to act on that game sense, which a lot of people don't, because it's fun to just run at someone with medikits to try and beat them with a stick. But,
exactly, yeah.
That's part of the fun, is knowing when you're not necessarily in a favourable position, but just YOLOing anyway, and just critting the entire team, and just watching the salt ensue.
Yeah, there is a reason why I think I have more strange melee weapons than I do ranged weapons in this game. It's just because it's just as effective and just as fun, if not more fun, to run around and just melee people. Demo night, just running around with the Sandman. I have an entire compilation about that, and it is just because it's so much fun to do, and because even the weapons that have been quote unquote nerfed or whatever, or changed or whatever, the stats don't matter, because at the end of the day, you're still caving in someone's skull with a baseball bat, right? Or a shovel.
And especially with like random crits for the most part, it's not even like people get angry because the other person thinks that they've done better when they've just got random crits. Like for the most part, people know that they should have lost in that situation and they got lucky. But it's funny. That's always been the one redeeming factor about random crits, is that they are just inherently funny. When you're in a completely outmatched situation, you just go bop bop bop. Oh, that's a triple kill.
Yeah.
It's because it's funny. It's not great. It probably shouldn't be that way, but in that moment, you're giggling to yourself. And if you're not, you should try and enjoy yourself a little more.
Yeah.
Try not to take yourself too seriously. Have a bit of fun.
I think as well, even if, for the most part, right, duels will come down to, even if you get random crit and die, like, when you're fighting 1v1 once, it's pretty unlikely that if you go against that same person again, like, it's not gonna save them twice, right? Generally, there'll be, I wouldn't say you have like a 50-50 chance, depending on how good you are. If you're going to go with the same person, you're both on the same skill level every single time, right? You're 50-50 chance of winning, because it just comes down to, skill at the end of the day. You can get all the crits you want, but eventually, skill is always going to beat luck. And, again, it gives a lot towards, especially when what you were saying earlier about balance. The game is just inherently made that way.
Absolutely. That's the one thing that they've kept constant, and it's helped the game's longevity exponentially. That I have no doubt about.
Oh yeah.
As soon as you have imbalance in a game, people get fed up, because you either have fun knowing you're going to lose most engagements and just trying to be stupid, or you are forced to use a weapon you don't really want to use, or a class you don't really want to play, just to compete. And that's not fun for anyone, because then every lobby is just filled with the same thing. And
yeah.
That's part of the fun of theatre. There's just so many weapons that do completely different things. Completely different. in almost every way, and it's great.
So I feel like we've got a lot covered here. You know, so that's been pretty much our thoughts on Team Fortress 2. We miss it. Valve, please just show us some care, you know? Show some love for truly an amazing game, you know? Thank you all so very much for listening through. This has been our pilot episode of The Casual Lounge. We both hope you enjoyed, and if you want to hear more, feel free to just show some love. Alright, that's going to be everything from us. I've been Alex. This has been Sam.
Yes, I have been Sam.
And we hope you'll come back and join us in the lounge another time. Thank you, and have a good night.
Goodbye.